back to the Cantina. Hope everyone's having an okay week. We thought this would be a good time to maybe look into the future, see what the future holds for us that we can be excited about.
I love that for us.
Yeah, I think it's a good week to do it. Yeah, so we have a lot to talk about, but I think one we'll kind of just jump right into because breaking news, we got another Star Wars movie announcement, and not even that, a full trilogy. Yeah. Brought to you by Simon Kinberg. Was that his name, Kinberg? I can't remember.
Kinberg is a great last name, but no, it's Kinberg.
Kinberg.
Simon Kinberg.
Mm-hmm. You may know him best from his work on all of the Fox X-Men movies.
I mean, this crowd though.
Let's Mrs. Smith.
And Rebels. He was principal writer on Rebels. So like our fan base, if you liked Rebels,
which we all do. Yeah,
I do very much.
Rebels is great. Yeah.
That's the guy. So
can
clearly
I get my personal
clearly relationship with Filoni. But yes.
Can I get my personal grievances out first, and then we talk about what we like about it?
I think they're mutually shared, so please do.
Yeah. He made my wife cry in a movie theater.
Yeah, not in like a good way though, right?
No,
not a good cry.
In my childhood dreams have been dashed. My wife, who's not a comic book reader, loves the Dark Phoenix saga. It's one of her favorite things. I feel like I'm just gonna be like really going heavy on him. She shared it with her cousin, who unfortunately passed away, and so she has a really soft spot for this. Her cousin introduced her to this, and so it was a very special part. And Kinberg took two shots at Dark Phoenix and missed horribly on both. And so literally we went to go see the Dark Phoenix. It's like
he made one movie and then he was like, what even is the Phoenix Force?
Right? and then we went to see the second one, and Carly was crying at the end. She's like, you did it again. Like
you did it again. You killed it. She's already dead.
Yeah. So, but I will say a bit of that, just to give him a bit of it. The budget on that got cut halfway through the second one because they knew they were losing the X-Men license, and so Fox cut the hell out of the budget, and that's why the ultimate fight in the Dark Phoenix saga is basically two different groups of people trying to get across the street. It's exciting action.
Yeah,
that just seems like almost like a sort of commercial mishap, licensing mishap, right? Where it's like, we want them to be Skrulls. Oh, you can't use the Skrulls or whatever.
Right,
it's just that's kind of what that felt like in the most recent.
It's a little external to him.
So I don't think it's a Simon Kinberg issue. It's just more that like if you shot for shot remade the comics for the Dark Phoenix saga, it would blow people away. Like honestly, in reading those first issues, I basically was just lost in them. I thought that was some of the greatest stuff ever made. I even thought the X-Men animated series, like its sort of rendition of it, was expertly done.
So good.
Yeah, and so it's sad that you can't execute on something like that. And I would argue that Star Wars carries even more weight than that. Like I've numbed myself to this all the development news surrounding Star Wars, and just I try not to put so much weight in an IP that already sort of like has earned my trust and adoration. And so I just trust, however we go forward, it's going to be good because I already love every element of Star Wars. But like Simon Kinberg was just kind of a surprising name to hear, even though I did love his Rebels episodes and I did love a lot of that work on Rebels. Rebels, again, I think is one of the best sort of animated projects that Lucasfilm has ever put together. So
I mean, I in my own mind, and I have a feeling other people feel this way, I separate the Marvel and the Lucasfilm IPs pretty distinctly. I mean, for me, Marvel is just like junk food, cheap snack. Like I watched Dark Phoenix and I didn't cry, both of them, and I was like, cool, that was exactly what I signed up for, and was like, it was pithy and it was dumb and there was a lot of explosions and people in tight outfits, and that was it, and I was like okay with it. But like Star Wars, I always feel like carries more, and also I mean I really do think those movies, they really feel like the casualties of the studios that are just like totally rewrites and just killed those movies, and Kathy will kill them in the cradle. Sorry, that's probably a bad metaphor, but you know what I mean. Like she'll stop the project before it really even takes shape. Like she needs to see a script that knocks her out of her seat, I think, and then then she'll let it go. As we're
when you said that, Grogu just dropped his little frog creature on the ground.
Here's what I'll give him another thing, because I do want to talk about as much as I kind of have my jokey whatever about these movies. Like it seems like he's on board of X-Men past X2. He gets into X-Men: The Last Stand, and all of those movies after that, like X-Men: Days of Future Past, Apocalypse, they're not good movies, but they're
like A+ Quicksilver scenes.
Yes, that's the thing. And when I watch those movies, I go, wow, you were trying to do some stuff in those movies that deep X-Men fans are. Like, he's trying to bring people in, and I think there's limitations surrounding budgets and other stuff. And so I appreciate the attempts of these things. Like, as we all have to remember, like, X-Men and Spider-Man was like the only comic book thing. So, I give a bit of a pass on that. And, he's done some other stuff. Oh, he's
I think having it be episodic will be, like, having it be a trilogy will be extremely good for Simon Kinberg, given that, like, I feel like what Last Stand suffered from some of the X-Men movies, but they felt like the end of a trilogy, or they felt like a singular sort of story, and like First Class even, and things like that. Like, it just felt like they didn't know if they were going to make the next one, and then obviously they do, but it's like, and it's just this entire different comic run that they sort of
they weren't building a universe like Marvel's
universe, and so I think there's some uncertainty there, but I think with his Rebels work, I think he worked on the Mr. and Mrs. Smith TV series, or I guess, he blessed it, because I think he invented it. I think it was his college thesis script was Mr. and Mrs.
Yeah, he wrote the
Donald Glover,
which is he wrote the original with Brad Pitt and
concept.
No kidding.
Angelina Jolie.
No kidding. Huh.
So that's the other thing to keep in mind is, like, so he has like producing credits on a lot of stuff, just as like a background thing. That doesn't necessarily mean you had anything to do with the movie. It just might be something they give you because it's connected to you. So like Logan, I'm trying to see if he actually did any writing on Logan, or if he's just connected because of.
I think he's just a co-producer. I really. I don't.
Yeah. He's a co-producer, whatever that means. It's probably.
Yeah. I will say he did write a movie that Hayden Christensen was in called
Jumper.
He wrote Jumper?
He wrote Jumper.
Which is not a terrible. It's actually just
a movie.
Extremely fine B movie, like, watch at home. It's a great time.
And written with Goyer, so like it's not like it was like, it's one of those movies. Some movies hit, some movies miss.
Yeah.
And he's got his fingers in a lot of pies in Hollywood. I mean, like, he's, I think, a fixer at almost every, like, Fox and obviously Lucasfilm, and he was oftentimes, I think, called into all these different projects to give his insight and sort of consult on them. And I think he's actually consulting on Star Trek at the same time. He's got this development deal with Star Wars, which is wild.
Which is wild. Yeah. Yeah, I mean, his head will be in the stars anyways. You guys are actually making me feel better about this, knowing like all that, because it's like, so he's a trusted name that's handled big budgets before. He's a big boy with a lot of experience, and I do think, like, Lucasfilm, I still look at it as kind of like a big budget indie film company. I know, like, they're under the umbrella of Disney, but I just feel like they have, Kathy has a fair bit of autonomy there. She's building her own creative team, doing her own things. It's like it's its own world with, like, very distinct writers and stuff. I mean,
it's also extremely difficult to sort of hear this information and not understand the vision. Like, there's we didn't get the pitch. We don't know what's going on. But if it's like some sort of like seductive tango, like The Acolyte, and this sort of like, and like those early drafts of the Lucas sequel trilogy, where it's like Kylo was supposed to be sort of trained with another female Jedi, and like, or female Sith or something like that. Like, some kind of romantic, like, sort of Sith Jedi thing could be extremely well done from Simon Kinberg, given that that's essentially Mr. and Mrs. Smith.
Yeah. Like that.
It's like that's all that is.
But it's a trilogy.
Like you said, it's a trilogy, and
that's what I'm talking about. Like, it could go there. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Right, and hopefully he had a plan for a trilogy, right? Like, that's the low bar that I kind of want cleared.
Yeah.
Which is just, do you have a plan for your trilogy?
Right. You
do? Good. Take it, because that's the thing that kind of was a little messed up with the sequel trilogies. They had loose plans and whatever. My conspiracy theory / question.
In the cards, Adam. I'll have you know.
Palpatine's in the cards for this trilogy. He's never not in the cards.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah. He's a permanent card.
Yeah, but here's my question: is this comes a week after the announcement that Stephen Knight? Did I say his name right for the first time?
You did,
Correct.
buddy.
Yes.
Way to
Wow,
go.
look at that. That Stephen Knight is leaving the Rey movie. Daisy Ridley said there are some big announcements coming.
Yeah.
we don't know what this trilogy is. Is this possibly they've decided to
Nolan
build out
directed Rey trilogy?
Right. Do we think that maybe they decided to build this out into a trilogy?
Yeah. No, actually, I can answer that definitively.
Okay.
No. At least as far as this article does say, it will be a brand new trilogy with new characters. They're like, you might see characters that you might run across characters that it'll be just like, it's going to be live action.
It's in the galaxy.
It's live action Rebels. Like, yeah.
It's like Hu Yang is in all the movies.
They're going to build a new cadre of heroes. They're going to build, new enemies. And yeah, it's going to be pretty much that. And then I imagine they'll bring in some zingers. Because I thought that
that's
too.
why Filoni is bringing in Hu Yang, like in Ahsoka. Maybe that's the piece that you use to go back. Like I'm trying to find the piece.
That's interesting.
Use, basically,
yeah, there might be something there because Lucas always talked about R2 and C-3PO being the connective tissue through the entire thing, and you obviously can't have 3PO go back in time.
Yeah,
but you got your Hu Yang can, right? Yeah. Like, could be your droid that connects the Jedi through all these time periods.
I'm totally on board with that. If you're gonna,
I love that
because Hu Yang is the coolest droid. I mean, mainly because he builds lightsabers with younglings. Like that's.
I think this is just the missing element of sort of any sort of vision or project that's going to take place in the past. Is sort of like how does it connect to the projects that we love and know so well, and what does it say, and how does that reflect on what the themes are in the original trilogy.
Right. And for Grogu out there, Hu Yang is a 25,000-year-old droid. It was there from the beginning of history.
Literally, right? Like, I think in timelines, doesn't it say, like, Hu Yang comes online? Here, I'm going to grab it while you guys are talking. But the other thing is, he's voiced by David Tennant, so yes, please.
Yeah.
They also got a huge name to voice him. So, I mean, again, he could just jump into any movie and be perfect.
And pop right in there.
Yeah, I when I read the article that you sent over, Ben, I also thought this is going to be a wholly new original trilogy, basically, like Star Wars, like the original trilogy, essentially, and I guess it's all new characters, right? It's a new ensemble. Awesome. That's extremely interesting to me because that's actually the boldest move they can take. Everyone talks about big swings. I'm like, the boldest thing Star Wars can do is reboot, like hard reset.
Do something completely different and new.
But do it in the mold of George. What the idea to emulate George's style and his storytelling and the sort of samurai western serialized sci-fi, gallivanting adventure, like that's great.
Yeah.
But it's not sort of deconstructive if it's not new, basically. So what you're doing is basically just rehashing everything, and it's like instead you should just restart, new people, new characters, new adventure, new monarchical sort of like characters, princes, princesses, emperors, kings,
whole cloth, man. Because he really did nail it. I thought the world building in Rebels was second to none. Like whole cloth, building a whole cadre. We talked about this every time we do it. Like I just can't believe how much I love all of those main characters in there. The way I'm going to put this is that I would really like for the dialogue to be at another tier, though.
That's another big issue I have, or I guess red flag I have, is that the X-Men movies are fantastic films in terms of action and in terms of
set
character
pieces,
development, like long form development. Like just some of the dialogue just never hits, and it's
what's your favorite quote from an X-Men? Quick, what's your favorite quote from an X-Men movie?
Definitely Xavier quote, probably like his initial speech, the first movie.
That's great. What is it? I'm just saying, like, my point is like, and I've seen those movies so many times. I love those first movies.
Checkmate.
Like, like that's like it's not. I think, but they love to pair.
How's it going,
they love to pair. Yeah, there you go.
Yeah.
Actually, I do have one, but I can't say it on air. Anyway, but sorry, I was trying to do the line in my head. So the thing is about it is that they love to pair writers.
Gino and like
right.
So they'll pair him up hopefully with someone. I just want to circle back to Hu Yang. So if you look at the timelines book.
Oh yeah, sorry, Hu Yang.
25,025. BBY is the birth of the Jedi. 25,020. So 5 years later. Professor Hu Yang is powered up, so he's there 5 years after the Jedi are formed. So there's your through line.
Like,
great.
How's that not your scene? How's that not like him booting up for the first time, opening his eyes for the first time? We're like, wow, this sets the stage. We are way back.
Yeah. I mean, Mangold will be before that, right?
I know.
Yes. Yeah, because the 25,025 is when the
Jedi
the birth of the Jedi Order,
Yeah.
but not necessarily the first Jedi, right? Like, yeah. So,
but I don't know if
That'd be crazy if there's a character that's like it's all misinformation about Hu Yang, and it's like he was actually like a droid that was in the that belonged to some sort of family and breaks apart throughout Mangold's thing, and then they rebuild them, and like he's like this sort of Jedi master Jedi lightsaber smith kind of character.
Yeah, no problems with Hu Yang. He's going to be great. So, yeah, all right. So I'm feeling a little better about this. Obviously he has a relationship with Filoni.
I think, we definitely filled you with dread in our text messages where we were just bashing the Dark Phoenix mishaps. And we're just like how awful it is to get 2 bites of that apple.
No, I agree with you.
It's such a delicious apple. Like, oh my goodness.
Yeah. Well, we got that. So,
Yeah. But then looking over his entire career, he's also young-ish. I mean, he's only 51.
Yeah.
Which to think about, like, how long he's been writing stuff. Like, he knows how to work in that system, right? And he must know how to take notes.
Yeah.
Right. Like, to be that successful.
He's kind of entering into Gilroy territory. These writers that have been around the block, they've written 1 million scripts, they've read 1 million scripts. Gilroy aged like fine wine. I imagine a lot of writers would do that.
Did he? I feel like his dialogue's always been good.
Great. Work with me here, Grant. Work with me.
No, I can't.
You're right. He's always been good.
Kinberg quite a bit. I mean, he's made some again. This is someone who's out here for us absolute geeks.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Who's like, you know what? You like X-Men? I will do whatever I can to make sure these are like, X-Men, heavy movies where you get lots of different X-Men, stories and tales and characters that are sort of just thrown at you over and over again. That's awesome. I'm just happy and grateful for that. And I like the Rebels episodes and things like that. And I'm here for this trilogy. I mean, I'm excited for it. I think I would love to at the end of this pod sort of talk about our most anticipated out of like the list that you kind of shared with us of the upcoming projects.
Yeah.
I think that'd be a fun thing to do. But no, Simon Kinberg has great qualities. I feel like I see his name everywhere. I mean, I watch random movies sometimes and his name just pops up as like story. I'm like,
he's like
here.
A script doctor.
Yeah. So today, even before we got this breaking news, which I dovetailed perfect in what we wanted to do. Full disclosure, I did find on Reddit someone made an infographic, and oh man, I'm a sucker for an infographic. And it was sort of the current status of upcoming Star Wars films, just feature films. And I have my own list that I keep and stuff, and so I checked it out, and I was like, actually, this is pretty complete. And then we got excited about that, and that's what we're going to talk about, just sort of like the future and all the different stuff we're going to say. But before we move on from the Kinberg trilogy, I mean, we got to ask you guys, what's the era? What's the era of the trilogy?
Far-flung future or distant past, I think, are the 2 options.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, what I'm worried about and where I think they're going to do is they're going to set it concurrently with the original trilogy or something else like that. Right, and tell another story. That's my because think about the most popular, and by popular I mean like the one movie in the sequel era that everyone agrees is wonderful is Rogue One, right? And so that's always my fear is they're just gonna be
I would watch like an Afra trilogy or something.
So we mock what we have no idea what it's going to be, but you're right. Like if it's as good as Afra, sure, let's go.
It's like Indiana Jones trilogy that takes place concurrently with the original trilogy. That's fascinating. I think Far-Flung Future.
I love that.
I think it's interesting, but I think the distant past or the sort of the mid-distant past, essentially, not where Mangold is going, but like sort of like the golden age of the Sith Empire. I think to me that is the most fertile ground for Star Wars, is to get another empire. Essentially, not a First Order or Knights of Ren, like all these sort of like made up factions that no one cares about. Like I think you need a very strictly like dark side empire, essentially, and I think the Sith Empire is key to telling the next iteration of Star Wars.
So I love that. I don't necessarily love that for Kinberg, based on the movies he's written. I don't know if he's the guy to do that. I think
Leslie Headland was a great candidate.
Leslie Headland would have been perfect.
I was like, is this proof of concept for like Sith Empire creator? Because I vet her. I think she's ready to do that. Because someone needs to do that long form, essentially.
Yeah.
And who's that going to be? Who knows? I don't know.
Yeah.
But Leslie Headland, I think, has just showed the bona fides to sort of do that.
Yeah, everyone loves a stranger, man. He's fantastic, and yeah, you could definitely build on that. We were almost got the Plagueis story via Headland, which would have been dope, but we'll see what the future holds. I think I have two. I think I said on a previous pod, like the two like lowest hanging fruit would be Luke Skywalker on his like vision quest after Return of the Jedi, just sort of wandering through the galaxy. I don't like that for here. I think that's an animated show, and I don't know, or a serialized television show.
I think that's a Terrence Malick one-off. Like that's what I think that movie is. Honestly,
I love that.
I think it's like a very naturalist, avant-garde, cinema verite, sort of like Luke exploring after Return of the Jedi, and it's like you hire Terrence Malick to shoot like de-aged Mark Hamill, and you do all these beauty shots of de-aged Mark Hamill as much as you can. That sort of offset The Last Jedi and how curmudgeon he is. And sort of show the beauty and the tranquility of what he became at the end of the original trilogy.
That's sold, Grant. That's exactly it. You're right. I mean, and I was going to say probably not that. That's exactly what it should have been. What one will be hopefully.
We won't get that project, but
well, I mean, it's a pretty. We're going to go through about like 10 potential projects here that are all in the works right now, and that's not one of them. So, get in line. But the other one I think would be the Bane era was what I was thinking, like the Bane trilogy.
What a
I love that.
Yeah. I mean, but that kind of dovetails with you, right? Like that's the end of the Sith Empire, the fall of the Sith Empire.
Yeah, I want the golden age, and you want the end, which is what does that say about Star Wars fans? Is we want to see this empire, right?
I think you just have a lot more EU experience in the Sith Empire, and I think if I had your same breadth of knowledge of it, I'd probably be right on board with you. But I don't. I just have the Bane trilogy kind of that era, so that's what I'm picking.
Yeah. Well, Bloodline. A lot of the fans sort of argued about sort of Bloodline thematics and. With the sequel trilogy and Rey's destiny and Rey's fate and Rey's agency, which is awesome. Like those are really awesome and interesting debates to have. I think you could do that in such an interesting way with the Sith Empire, and there being a Sith species essentially, like a Sith culture. I think that could be just an incredible way to engage the audience in more debates that are extremely interesting. That I would love to sort of see something like that done. But the thought bomb and Khan and Bane and like all that stuff at the end, like, are you kidding me? Like that is very cool as well. And like I don't think you can get there if you do both essentially, because the timeline is so stretched out. For that empire.
I mean, but you could jump around in there. I mean, that's what Star Wars does, is sort of pick various eras. But I mean, I think it's probably more likely that he does what you're talking about, Grant, and lays the foundation of this era, and that would set up a Bane trilogy later.
Right, because if you did the foundational stuff, then the Bane stuff would hit harder essentially, because it's like it's ending, and here's someone who's going to carry it forward for their own reasons essentially, and what that means. And and I mean, I'd love for Kinberg to surprise me and knock that out of the park, but I mean, that's your like Christopher Nolan trilogy you were just talking about. I think anyone who does that though is just an automatic win, because you're like Sith, heavy plate armor, like lightsabers, like it's auto winning. Like I just don't understand. Like, every time the internet goes wild, and I don't mean like the bad part of the internet, just the like all of the internet goes wild with Star Wars. It's been Baylan Skoll, The Stranger, Shin Hati. What do all three of these have in common? They have a red freaking lightsaber, and they look dope as hell. Like, come on. Game over. Real life. Like, just give us that. Real talk. Just copy paste, multiply. I mean, put some heart and soul into it. Well, of course. Anyone who does it though, like Kinberg, anyone who does that era, I think it's pretty much an easy knock out of the park, because you're gonna put visuals on there that are like Sith on horseback versus Jedi on horseback, or riding into each other. Like you're gonna do incredible, the Battle of Pelennor Fields with Sith and Jedi essentially. Like that is that's an automatic win in my opinion. That'd be amazing. Adam, what are your two, or what are your thoughts on that? We didn't get it. You said one you didn't want. What's one you want? It's I didn't want, but I assume. I don't
I don't have anything to add. Because I was thinking similarly. I want that deep dark era explored. I want some of that. We're not going to go like they're not going to touch the future right now. They got the Rey movie. They got to get that done. I love the idea of far future, but that presents roadblocks and trickiness, because then everyone's gonna be like, well, how'd they get that? You get a little bit of that, like whatever. So there's so much in the past to look at. That's awesome.
The missing movie for far future is a gray Chewbacca, a rusty C-3PO, like a beat up R2. You know what I mean? Like, these characters are still around.
Oh, so you're talking
but that story has yet to be told.
But I feel like that's not far enough for the future.
It's not even
you're talking about a
far
couple hundred years.
At this point,
I mean, I want that. I love that. I love it. I just don't think
fanfare. It's like, I need that gray Chewbacca. I need gray Chewbacca.
Okay.
It's like Bothan for me. It's like there's certain visuals I just need.
Yeah.
I will say a couple of the directors we have coming up have done several time travel movies, and please, oh God, do not give us a time travel movie in Star Wars.
No. Please.
Oh, we're gonna get it in the Ahsoka series, Adam. So don't worry.
Yeah, I mean, if it's an.
But I forgive it because they had Balin's skull and shit.
I know, like
I forgive anything that series does, because Thrawn is made out to be an incredibly cool warlord character. It was like extremely dark sorcery, sort of like coded, like warlord character, which is weird. I was like, why is he like mystical? Like, this is cool, but like this is different.
And I didn't mind it when they did it in Rebels, the more I think about it, because it was used to be, basically it was a Jedi test for Ezra, right? This idea that he had the power to save his master, right? And knew it wasn't the right thing to do, right? He had to honor his master's choice. It's kind of a beautiful little thing.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
But what I got fear after I saw it is like, oh no. They've introduced the idea of time travel. Oh no. like what I got afraid of what he could do with that power.
Yeah, it's weird that Filoni opened that door. Yeah. And I guess Kinberg did too.
Yeah. To tell you the truth, though, like opening that door and then having Palpatine sort of like lurch through a portal and try to attack them when they're in that realm was the most genius idea I've seen in an animated show ever.
Yeah, I mean, you get.
I was like, that's the only way that works, basically.
The only way that you have those
like, I see
interact.
you in the time travel sphere, like I'm gonna attack.
Yeah.
Yeah, that worked for me. Like, if that didn't happen, I think it's just, if it was echoey and Yoda appeared and like they're just moving around time, I would be like really annoyed by that. But because there's dark side characters like reaching in from other timelines, that's interesting.
Yeah,
that's
and
cool.
anyone can interact with that.
Yeah,
get in there. It's
the
like
way,
not
like,
just a Jedi thing.
I'll say like it's way better than the TVA and sort of what Marvel is doing with time travel, in my opinion.
Yeah, right on. That's really well said, Grant. I mean, it's not like I didn't enjoy those scenes. It was great. It was just, but the whole time I was like, cool. I'm like, I don't need. And they kind of did do time travel with Ahsoka. Not unclear. She was ripped out of time.
She does time travel.
Yeah.
She reappears a couple of years later.
Don't really,
they were like, so does Ahsoka kill Darth Vader? And they're like, well, he's kind of the most badass character in our arsenal of characters. And then they're like, oh, well, how could she survive a collapsing temple and a battle with Darth Vader? Time travel. Yeah. Like, it was like a necessity out of necessity. It was like keeping Ahsoka. I mean, Ahsoka is one of my favorite characters ever, essentially. And like, it's so fascinating that Anakin Skywalker has a Padawan, and like that idea is so cool to me. And it's I don't think it's fleshed out enough, and I think Filoni knows that too. I think he's like, oh, here's all this hypercharged Anakin Ahsoka stuff in the Ahsoka series and live action, and like, I'm gonna keep going with it. And then I was like, well, after that, all this stuff with Anakin, I was like, how does he not talk to Kylo Ren? How does he not talk to Luke and like try to break him out of his like,
I mean, Ahsoka is like up there for me, and I think I told you the story that before this show premiered. I remember Carly going like, "So who is this Ahsoka?" Because she doesn't she just watches movies and the TV shows. She doesn't do any EU or animated stuff. And she will only tolerate so much of me talking about Star Wars, and it's got to be stuff she's aware of.
I'm in the same situation. I actually just shouldn't talk about Star Wars when I'm with my family, spending time with my family. I sort of like just am very reserved about it.
Oh, me
I'm
too.
like, Star Wars, that's a thing.
Yeah,
Carly's
me too.
on it. Carly loves it as long as she have a conversation. As long as it doesn't come across as me like lecturing her. Like, so she's so I don't think I ever talked about Ahsoka much in front of her. She's like, who is Ahsoka when we're watching the thing? Like, she's like that's Anakin's Padawan, and she's like, Anakin had a Padawan?
I
Like, her mind was blown. She was so excited. She's like, that's awesome. She was like,
very
directly
cool.
on board. She's like, that's amazing.
Oh,
Like, she was
cool.
so excited about that idea. And I cannot wait. I mean, having my daughter, like, I know that eventually I'll get to introduce her. That's why I'm like really light playing Star Wars with her, because I don't want to like push it too hard and turn her away
Right.
before I have the chance to, introduce her to Ahsoka.
Right. That's great.
Sure.
Listening to you guys, I do really kind of feel like that sort of world between worlds. It's like an ethereal, like, pathway of the Force. So it's like, if you in real myth, right, there's always an afterlife sort of, experience. And so this kind of scaffolds that out a little bit in a very easy way to think about it. So I think it's less about like just a time travel vehicle than it is sort of this, this other plane of existence that maybe, the ghosts of the past can dip into, and, other sorcerers can get into, and
right.
Yeah. And
Just fully
and
mystical.
travel through
Right.
time and space,
Yeah.
essentially, through the Force.
Through the Force.
Yeah, exactly.
It's actually just Force hyperspace is all it is, really. It's just like, how do characters get from A to B if they don't have a starship that can go into hyperspace? They can go through the world.
Right.
Yeah,
There's another way to get. It's an extreme, like Omega class Jedi power, right? Like that's what that is.
And it introduces something else that's interesting, because I remember listening to a podcast way back when, and they're talking about like, well, how do ghost Jedi ghosts get from planet to planet? Can they just like pop up? Are they swimming from planet to planet?
Right.
And now this actually introduces like, no, they're actually able. This is like, maybe this is when one becomes one with the Force. When Qui-Gon figured out one of the Force, maybe he tapped into figuring out how to enter the world beyond worlds.
Yeah.
Like maybe that's where Force Ghosts go to, right? And like, yeah,
and there should be tiers to it and all that. Like, and I don't need to know all the answers, but it does make kind of like there needs to be in Star Wars a sort of afterlife world. Like it's introduced and it's alluded to, and it's nice that it's vague. But if as we get into like more and more storytelling, they're sooner or later they're gonna have to borrow on it. And Filoni's apparently like got the green light, and he's just like, yeah, I'm gonna set the precedent here, and now this can be a thing.
Right. I mean, we have both the Force priestesses and the Mortis gods, and they don't seem to be related. I think that's territory that we as fans sort of kind of need to understand. We're like, so how do we differentiate between these priestesses who reached out to Yoda and then the Mortis gods, essentially?
Yeah.
And I think that's what Filoni's aiming to do. And I think he understands that that's like the territory. Like, again, the Force is a sort of allusion to religion, right? It's George was like, I want to talk about religion without talking about religion, right? And so that's what the Force is, essentially. And so they're, the idea of a trinity of the same sort of deity, and then this familial deity, collective in the Mortis gods. It's like that. It relates to real world religions, and sort of like I want to understand the connection between those things and what's going on there. I think Filoni wants to understand that stuff too and figure that stuff out. Yeah,
definitely. And they're venturing into it. But every hero's journey involves apotheosis, right? Some sort of gift from the divine, and and that can take a lot of different shapes. But it makes sense to have a larger world of the divine to sort of tap into. Should we start ticking off some other movies? I mean, we've done this, and
let's go.
Yeah, I mean, so the first one, this, and I think these are roughly ordered as far as like the most probable to the least probable.
Yeah, I like the infographic.
Yeah,
it's pretty solid. Right, so top of the one, Mandalorian Grogu, allegedly has wrapped filming.
That seems to be the rumor.
That's true.
Wow.
Yeah, that is.
Yeah. And Sigourney Weaver's in it, is what they're saying.
Yep. That's been confirmed.
That's the only actor, like big name actor we know is involved.
Yeah, outside of the main. But no, absolutely. I guess not even outside of the main, because the main is literally just Grogu, which is a puppet, and I can't think of the actor's name who plays the Mandalorian. Pedro Pascal, which is just a voice. So like, she's like the only actual human on set that we know is on set.
Yeah, she'd make a great warlord, wouldn't she?
Yeah.
Imperial.
She would make a great anything, and I don't even mean that to be like whatever, but like you can slot Sigourney Weaver into like she could be like leading part of the rebellion or or the New Republic at that point. She could be an Imperial warlord.
You know what I think she's doing is she's raising the alarm about the First Order.
Yeah,
Oh, I like
yeah,
that.
So I
that.
think
I love
she's
that.
raising the
Yeah.
alarm about the xenomorph. Like she's raising the alarm about the issue.
Yeah,
Like in
and
the
no one's.
Ooh, I like that.
Yeah.
that's my hot take for what I think.
like
That's
it.
a hot take.
She's one of the best to do that sort of action in a story.
Yeah, so that one's in the can. We have that to look forward to. Summer 26 is on schedule, and that would be super fun.
The title bothers me. Like it was just if they did the Mandalorian and Grogu on this final, not even trailer, like not even first teaser, but a sneak peek of the series and the final sneak peek of the series before your first teaser even of the movie itself. Oh, sorry, of the movie. I mean, your last sort of sneak peek of the movie that leads into your first teaser of the movie. It shows the title at the end. It breaks down, turns into the Mandalore or something. Like something like that to me is just way more interesting. Because I'm like, oh, then Sabine can become the Mandalore, and it can be this epic of like a journey for characters to reach certain potentials and things like that.
It's both a clunky name and a name that gives away too much. In a way, right? Because for exactly what you're saying, Grant, because we know what it's not. If you're calling it the Mandalorian,
in fact, it's like. By that, it's like they're saying Grogu isn't a Mandalorian, right?
Well, it's weird, right?
I mean,
because
we
the
know
Mandalorian,
he is, but it's like
there's like
the
so many
Mandalorian, but there's not even the Mandalorian.
I always liked the name the Mandalorian because it was a little bit vague. It's there's a lot. We know a lot of Mandalorians.
Grogu now or Grogu Jaren now or something. Like I'm so confused. They're like basically one at this point.
Well, it's his
like
son.
They have become one.
They are tribe of two.
No, 100%. It's his son, but like, and he's all of our son at this point.
and maybe some people's chihuahuas.
But I just feel like at this point they're one. So like the Mandalorian and Grogu just feels weird.
It's weird. This is
the
Lone
Wolf and Cub. It's like it's a safe thing. It's like Lone Wolf and Cub. It's Mandalorian and Grogu.
Yeah,
it's same title scheme.
Here's my take on the movie as a whole. It is the movie of all the movies announced I'm least excited for, but am most confident I know I will enjoy. Does that make sense? Like I know I'm going to enjoy that movie because
it's a popcorn movie all over. Yeah, of course.
Yeah. So I'm going to have fun at the movies. I know that.
If he's just strolling or Grogu around town and like someone tries to like raise trouble with him, and they just fight back, like I'm there for that movie. It's so sad that I'm there for that, basically.
It's familiar, we know it.
Yeah, exactly.
And the titles that we really don't know anything about, it's kind of like a spring training fever. It's just like anything's possible zone, and so you can you can expect the impossible.
Maybe the Browns will win the Super Bowl this year. Oh, week 5? Nope.
No. Yep.
Wait. Yeah. Last thing I heard, there was an uptick. Are we back down?
Oh no, there was an uptick, and then last week was a big old downtick. So they're right back down where they were. They had one good week. Anyway,
I'm not watching a Browns game. I was mad.
Why
I couldn't watch
would anyone
Rams
watch a Browns
Seahawks
game?
last weekend? I was like, why can't I watch this?
but I feel like that's kind of where I'm at. It's like we know it's a known entity with this movie, and the other thing I think is really smart is I'm actually fully on board the idea of this being the first new Star Wars movie in the theater. Yeah. Because this is going to get butts in the seat, and that's what you need to be able to show Disney we can make more of these Star Wars movies and get people in the theater. Like, so great, take it straight down the middle, set it up, make it break $1 billion in the box office. Good, we're good. Yeah.
All right. Moving on to the next one, and obviously these at the top we've talked a lot about, but New Jedi Order. So that is the Rey movie. Now starring Daisy Ridley. It's now searching for its 4th writer.
Yeesh.
This was I looked up just like all this stuff just to like fact check it, and like this movie was supposed to be done in 22. Like it was, or like 23, I think was the original release date for this movie. I don't know. It was like, it's been a minute. Actually, I guess, I guess they're holding on to like December 2026 now. No, I think I'm sorry. It was a different movie it wasn't the Rey movie. But a couple of these, it was like the Taika movie was to start filming. And like it almost started filming in 23.
Never happening.
And like it was really close and then it didn't happen. Anyways, this movie's going to be great. It needs a writer.
But originally,
the Taika animated movie, you mean? I thought it was an animated movie.
No, it was supposed to be live action, but it's really unclear. We'll get there because I have a theory on that one. But yeah, this one was like originally was announced. It seemed to be suggested this was going to be the first of the new movies out the gate.
Yeah.
And then they did that like shock. Nope, we're doing the Mandalorian Grogu, which still my theory is, oh no, these other movies need more time to percolate.
Yeah.
What you got? What you got? And they're like, oh, we could write you a really good action Star Wars movie in like a month because those two are so good at it.
Yeah.
And then this got pushed further back because now it looks like Dawn of the Jedi is going to be of the three that were announced. Looks like Dawn of the Jedi is probably going to be a before the Rey movie.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So that's what's. I mean, we talk every podcast about the new Jedi Order movie. Like invariably.
Yeah, we talked about that.
Everything
in the
yeah,
so
we covered that
have
quite a bit.
Yeah.
anything
it's
else to
tough
say about it?
there's only like one way to do that movie, in my opinion, for those movies. It's like I don't see a lot of paths to doing those movies other than like one way. It's a Padawan turned bad story.
Yeah.
But it's just how do you do that in an interesting way? And I have my own ideas. I'm sure other creators have their ideas, but it's just like it has to feel more interesting than Rey just being alarmed that Padawan has turned to the dark side. There has to be something else tied to all of that that's very interesting. That's not Palpatine either. So it's very tough territory. It cannot be Palpatine. That's
or Kylo, though, right? Because you also got to avoid the Kylo slipping to the
I think
dark.
Kylo is falling prey to what you fell prey to in the sequel trilogy, which is just strictly a sort of fan service. And I don't think if you're already going to make Anakin a non-character in the sequels, like I don't know how you bring Kylo into the Rey movies. Like I just don't understand that. Like I don't understand the logic at all.
Yeah.
It's confusing.
Yeah.
Can I bring in a question from chat?
Oh,
We got a
right,
question
sure.
from chat.
Yeah.
Because it could tie into this. Tyler asked, will we ever get a Knights of the Old Republic movie? Do you think any of these? I know we're kind of jumping around. Any of these could be a Knights of the Old. I mean, that might be a show.
Yeah, I think
talk about.
Knights of the Republic is.
I think that's on the table.
It's already canonized, right? The Ricotta Empire. I think Luthen Rail mentions it.
I mean,
they're lightly
okay, so it's
canonizing.
essentially canonized at this point.
Yeah.
I'm inclined to think that
I
they'll
don't
do
know if
the
they
video
that, though.
game
The game is what is the sort of like
backbone of that story.
the opal or the sort of the sort of masterclass in storytelling. It's like the game itself is you can't really recreate it as a film because the game is so effective.
Yeah, and
it's like,
there's plans to modernize the game, right? They were going to do a refresh of the game. It got
it's
shelved, but
It
it's
got-
still in
it
production.
got shelved, but it's still like possibly.
Yeah,
There's always rumors every couple months that it may drop.
I think we get that first before we get any film adaptations, and that
But
could take
fans
years.
Fans have been like clamoring for it. It seems like an easy
That's
sell.
because you're getting a new Sith character, you're getting a new Jedi character, Bast Lashan,
Yeah.
Darth Malak, Darth Revan. I really don't understand the adoration of Revan when it's essentially the player character. I've never understood that. I was like, oh, so because you experienced everything they experienced, you are elated by the character? Like, I'm
Great
confused
Jedi, bro.
about all that. I guess just the idea that all of the sort of bait and switch and sort of reversal stuff that happens with the character is so fascinating to people that they really are smitten with that idea of a character being mind wiped, an amnesiac. Sith turned Jedi story, Sith turned Jedi turned Sith story, which is like, that's fun, but like, why would you do that again in a film? I just don't understand. It doesn't make sense.
But the Sith turned Jedi turned Sith is one path, right? Because you can also get the Sith turned Sith
Jedi, stay
Jedi, which to me is an interesting story, right? Because that's the ultimate redemption arc. That's basically the what if Darth Vader lived, right? Because if Darth Vader lived, my whole thought is he never would have been successful as a light side user because he would have had all of the guilt that would have like torn him down. And so if you get the amnesiac, what you're showing is that like it's not the dark side that turns people dark, it's their inner thoughts. And if you take that away and they completely don't remember what they've done and they're still attached to the light, it's an interesting story. I think it's definitely an interesting story. But the dark turn to light turn to dark is really depressing. That's
the only way I would do that movie, though. Like,
I mean, of course you would.
Like the movie would be like, "Oh, I was dark at one point, and now you've hid this from me. I'm going dark."
I'm going
to me, that's how.
I kind of like that. Yeah, I mean, I see where you're going with that. Kind of like, yeah. But so to answer your question, Tyler, maybe, but probably not for a long time.
Yeah, I think they refresh that game first. I also think I think people like Revan because the design's so cool. Like a red and
the
purple
design
like lightsaber. The design's elite.
The design is incredible.
And that's like the Old Republic. Like there's so much room for just like hypnotize. Really captivating, hypnotizing. Thank you.
Hypnotizing.
Like design. Like I've seen some fan stuff that I'm like, that's amazing. Like Jedi Sith War stuff. That's just like fascinating.
To tell you the truth, I think Knights of the Republic 2 has some concepts that like are more interesting in my opinion. They're like the Darth Sion, Darth Traya sort of characters to me are like, and if you liked the episode on Moraband in Rebels and like that temple and stuff, like you would love Knights of the Republic 2 in that storyline. Darth Nihilus, like a planet-eating Sith character. That's incredibly easy to defeat in the game. It's like, I guess he's good at other things.
Yeah, I mean, is it Tyler or Taylor?
Tyler.
Yeah, I think now that you're saying it, like maybe we aren't going to get that game, and maybe they do just dive into this. I mean, it would be super low-hanging fruit for Kinberg to do it, and it would be the first of a kind to just like, oh no, we're going to tell this story in a more elegant way or something. But I mean, it would have fans, right? Like, I mean, the KOTOR fans would run out for it. And
and Kinberg has spent most of his career adapting other work. If you think about it, right, adapting X-Men stories to the big screen.
It's also like a really cool sort of idea that two Jedi who fought against the Mandalorians in like the Jedi versus Mandalorian War basically fell to the dark side in that war, much like the Clone Wars sort of twisted Jedi's minds and hurt them and turned them and gave them immense trauma. Like the fact that these two Jedi are like basically turn. Rediscover all the secrets of the Sith and sort of reestablish the Sith Empire and stuff like that. It's like, that's crazy.
All right. So we talked about New Jedi Order. Can I suggest we kind of skip past? We've talked about kind of both those and Dawn of the Jedi a ton.
Actually, can I just say one more thing about New Jedi Order before we skip along?
Yeah, sure.
Grant, I'm not just trying to be difficult, but I think there are other paths on this movie other than like, because I've just
but do you think that's
I
would love to hear what do you think another path is?
I think we've kind of talked about this, but I think like an Abeloth, like a super like super powered dark like entity, and it's just like Rey wrestling with it, and like at least on the top level.
To me that goes. That was when I was talking about my own ideations. That actually goes with exactly what I said. Where I think a Padawan turn evil story, but I think it's like Rey is cleansing temples all over the galaxy, or Sith.
But I think Abeloth messes with
fighting
Rey.
something mentally, an Abeloth or something, and the Abeloth thing gets into a student, and boom, have a trilogy. Like essentially, that's
I was thinking more of just like Abeloth, like dealing with like messing with Rey, trying to really push the dark side in her, and like let in like more of Rey wrestling with that, and like becoming too powerful. And like really make it about Rey. But I mean, I don't know if you can't really do that for a trilogy. That can be like one through line, but you need like 3 or 4 more, right? Through like, you know.
Well,
it's very Lord of the Ringsian. It'll be like Sauron essentially.
What if you've just reverse pitched your trilogy, right? Because it starts with it starts with her doing farts. I'm tired. It starts with her forming the New Jedi Order, or at least in
Media Res.
running it in Media Res. Thank you. That's exactly the term I was looking for. And then they're just battling whatever. Like give them just a whatever to fight in the first movie. It's a good bad guy, but it's whatever. You love these Padawans. Second movie, a Padawan falls. That's the thing that she's dealing with the second one. The third one is when it's revealed the Padawan fell and the first person fell because of Abeloth. The Abeloth has been turning the screws this entire time, right? That's your third, right? Sure. And so you go from a threat to a personal threat to a galactic threat in the third one.
See, I was thinking she's purifying temples. Like I love that idea, Adam. I first of all, I want to just say I love
I'm just trying to get you guys to weave it together.
I just can't have another third movie arch villain reveal in Star Wars ever
that's
again,
fair.
Basically.
That
can never happen to me.
I can see why. We've been burned by it before.
Right, but in the first movie she can be cleansing temples like you're saying and let the monster out and sort of not really know it, but like as the we sort of see it, or she sees something weird and doesn't know what it is, and then it's sort of like the monster's slowly revealed.
And then we see.
I love it because I'm seeing different movies here. I'm seeing Ben's movie is Rey is essentially sort of tormented and taken over by this creature after purifying temples. Adam's movie is she's doing all these things in the first movie. The second movie, A Padawan Falls. The third movie, massive arch-villain reveal. The Zabalov character sort of possessing someone. And my idea is that she's purifying these temples over and over again, but then she decides, oh, I'll bring one Padawan one time, and this thing won't be there.
Yeah. Yeah.
And then first movie, it gets in. And
Yeah.
I'm like, and to me, that's a trilogy. You have a trilogy.
Yeah. Yeah. That
I
could
think
be
they're
it.
all viable.
Yeah, I think
I'd
all
watch any of
all
those.
three could
viable.
be true, and
Yeah.
you know, because I mean, I think Abeloth should have the power to attack, a possess a Padawan and like be whispering in Rey's ear at the same time,
And to have something like that in live action is interesting, right? Because we've gotten in the animation, like I always think of, it just fell out of my brain. What's the thing that Ezra's always talking to, or Ezra and on the planet? The giant
wolves?
The Bendu?
Bendu. The Bendu. Thank you. Voiced by another Doctor Who actor. But the Bendu is, like we've seen these giant force beings in animation and referred to in other stuff, but to actually get one on screen would be fascinating.
Super fun.
Right?
Yeah, that would be really fun.
I would love that.
Man, we keep hammering on this movie. It's just, I think it's because it's like they're on.
We gotta leave this movie alone.
Yeah, it's like the fourth writer, and we have said about 25,000 words on it.
We've done like 10 good treatments on this.
Yeah,
10
very
different
simple
treatments on this
pitches that I think could be expanded into treatments and Bible and scripts.
Pitches. Yeah, and I feel like the thing is that like it's also the one that in some ways has the most resting on its shoulders because it's the only story that's pushing forward in time.
Yeah.
Right, in terms of I want a good foundation with whatever they're doing so we can be really excited about the next 20, 30 years within the galaxy.
Right. No pressure.
No pressure. No pressure whatsoever.
It's another thing. Star Wars is sort of an IP that I think is so heavily scrutinized that I just sort of have sympathy for anyone who engages with it in a creative way. And so I just want to throw that out there. Like we're out here pitching and spewing out ideas, but that's only because we love Star Wars. We literally would gather every week and talk about Star Wars regardless of where we are in the world or what's going on. It's just going to happen. Like we love to do this sort of stuff. So it's like, we're happy that you're listening. And Tyler, thank you for your question earlier. This is like, we love doing this stuff. It's great.
Yeah. All right. Moving along. Yeah. So what were you going to say about Mangold's movie, Adam?
Nothing.
Yeah,
I feel like we talked about it so much.
We're done with Dawn.
We're so excited for
it. Past 5 episodes to hear that.
So, I mean, the cool part about this that I'm not sure I remembered was Beau Willimon is connected to it. And
it's a really good one.
So he wrote the prison arc of Andor.
Which is
like One Way Out, like all those. Which is pure genius. So I didn't really. I know we've talked about this, but I was like, I had to look up his name and be like, oh, it's that guy, and then
say it with a whisper.
Yeah. I got that. Well, I got that excited.
All the best Star Wars that we've seen or as of late are paired writers, right? Mm-hmm. People who live in the universe and who don't, right? Mangold is an excellent. I mean, just look at the list of the movies he's made. Yeah. Most are really, really great. But he may not have the deep knowledge of Star Wars, and you get someone like someone from Andor who can also write the dialogue, because this movie is going to live or die by its dialogue. I really feel it. I feel like it's the most important one to get the dialogue right.
Yep. All right. Yeah. So plenty has been said about that. The next one up is the Lando movie, written by Donald and Stephen Glover, allegedly. Grant, what were you saying about this before the pod? You were like, this is definitely happening.
Oh, this is 110% happening.
Yeah.
And it's going to be one of the coolest sort of, I think, prestige series we've ever seen from Star Wars, other than
movie now. No, they switched.
Movie.
They switched gears. It's now a movie.
Which I think it's dying for a series. I'll take a movie. That's fine.
Yeah.
I think even more is going to happen because of that. Because weirdly, a movie is easier to get off. The thing, I think it's Don Glover is really trying to make the transition into film a little more. I mean, if you look at Mr. and Mrs. Smith and Atlanta,
he's earned it, man.
He's earned it, and he loves Lando. He talks about Lando all the time. I think his Lando is so good in Solo, and I love the idea of having the actor who is also a great creator take the helm of this, and he writes about it a lot. He seems to talk about it. He mentions it happening. It's one of those things where, and we also know that he does not sleep. like literally don't
He must
like not literally.
yeah.
He's constantly working, and so I'm wondering this might be much further along than we know it is.
I wonder
than we
if
think
he's
it
in
is.
the lab right now, because I mean, after Mr. and Mrs. Smith, I don't know that he's popped up in anything in a year.
No, he's been touring his
the band?
the Childish Gambino's final one, but I think he got something happened and he had to cancel a ton of the dates, which is weird because a lot of people have something happen lately that have had to cancel dates because I think the margins are razor thin with profits.
Finances have killed a lot of mid-tier like pop acts, man, or like really big bands. Like it killed Animal Collective's tour died that way.
Yeah, like completely. Yeah,
there was a couple other big bands. I think they were like, we just can't afford to do this.
So what's bad for Childish Gambino might be really good for Lando because he now has time, right, that he didn't have, unfortunately for him, but fortunate for us, he might be working on it.
Can you think of it?
I think the initial pitch too was like how he goes from like sportsman to Baron administrator, and I was just like,
let's go.
Oh, I'm here for it. Like, let's do that. Yeah. That's an arc.
I mean, I just want a Donald Glover show. Like, I don't like all his vibes and all of his stuff is amazing, and like that plus Lando equals gold. Like, you don't have to be a genius to figure.
There can always be no growth in the show, and you'd be happy.
Yeah. I just want to have vibes. A heist or have a whatever. Yeah, exactly. Vibes. It's just whatever, and to have a bit of a character study one that's really just like we haven't had. Solo is not Solo. Solo is
an origin
story together. And it's an origin story of a lot of people, and I kind of want this to just be like just Lando. Just tell me a Lando story.
Just vibing. Yeah. Like Calrissian Chronicles sort of stuff would be great.
Yeah,
you know,
absolutely. Yeah,
rad. That one's gonna be great. And then so on this list, and this is my belief as well, another Filoni movie. And this one was announced several years ago.
It was announced alongside. It was confirmed alongside the New Jedi Order and the Dawn of the Jedi. Those she came out. Kathleen came out and announced those three.
Yeah, I think it was April 2023.
That sounds right. Yeah, because
that's before that. That might have been the Grogu movie, right? That's just
the Grogu movie was
in
even
25
after.
Now, right?
Yeah, the Grogu movie was surprise after all this. Once things started not developing at the speed they thought they were going to develop, that's when they suddenly announced, no, we got this other one. It's like filming, I don't know, next week. We'll figure it out. It's happening right now.
Right.
How are you chief creative officer and then also directing films? I don't understand how that works.
That's 2 films, right?
I don't get that.
I mean, the guy works, and think about all the production people under him. I think it's just giving him an official title to make Star Wars fans feel better about themselves.
It's fascinating because the IP has just so much weight to it and such a beautiful thing, and Dave Filoni had such beautiful years of tutelage under George that it's like we need someone to greenlight the storytelling, but also like understand where to go with the story. And like there's like Pablo Hidalgo and Filoni are like some of the only people that basically can do that.
Well, there's a whole story group team. It's not just Hidalgo, you know.
Oh no! I didn't.
But I mean, like that's kind of
team is huge.
My theory on that is probably it was happening anyways, and Filoni was like, "Look, this is happening all the time. I need to get paid for this, and like I wouldn't mind a title to go along with it. Like it just like." You know, it's like I love doing this. This is great, but it's like if I'm gonna be directing 2 movies and you expect me to do this all the time, which I love doing or whatever, I need to be compensated and really I should get a title or you know. And I don't know if he came to Kathleen or they came to that decision, but I think he's the guy that everyone's talking to, and I'm sure he's always making himself available to these story
I don't think
writers.
that's true. I think Pablo Hidalgo is the person everyone's talking to.
I'm sure they're talking
because every single interview I've listened to, people are like, he is the. Tony Gilroy is like he's the guy, the deacon, the bishop of.
But is he the keeper of the lore more than anything else in terms of this is the guy you need to go to figure out how to make this or this work? And Filoni is the big picture.
Yeah,
that's Leland Shee. Okay. Leland Shee is the keeper. Of
I think I think Adam's getting there, right? It's like Hidalgo's kind of the keeper of the past, but like Filoni is the keeper of the future. Where he's he's the one maintaining like who there we go
right down.
He's the one kind of directing where these storylines are all going and maybe where they're meeting and the general direction of the storyline. And I'm sure Kathleen has a part to do with that, but like as far as the dork side of it, I think that's what he's kind of doing.
I don't know that she does. And not to belittle her. I think she's just more on she is the pathway between the creatives and the pocketbooks, right? She's able to like, and using her decades of experience with like blockbuster, like, nerd movies to be like, this will work, this won't work, this is why I need to sell it. Like, what are you going to do? We need to be further along. Like, she just, I honestly,
that's a different gate like, that you have to clear.
Yeah.
But it's for
to be able to talk to those two groups of people is a talent. And then I think we have her to thank for the Grogu and the Mandalorian Grogu movie, because she's like, we had a date on the books. We have to put a movie out. We cannot miss another date. We've missed too many of these dates. We've had to push stuff back. But I also don't want to run into a Rise of Skywalker again, where we rush the new Rey movie just to get a date. Can you take season 4? Like, can you please, Jon Favreau and Dave Filoni? Like, you wrote most of season 1 of The Mandalorian over Christmas. Could you write? Do you have a major motion picture in your box? And knowing that both of them, especially like Jon Favreau, is like, yeah, I can do it. Like, the most rushed movie he ever made was Iron Man 2, which is not a good movie, but it is a completely watchable movie. Like, he had to write that thing in like weeks and get it done and start shooting and get it out. And he still made an okay movie. So I feel like they were just like, yeah, it's great. And she's probably like, yep, just do it. Great. We'll keep that date. Announce it next week.
Yeah. Her standards of excellence are like, the lowest tier is like a mediocre Zemeckis movie or a good Spielberg movie. Yeah. And so if your movie is not of that ilk, you're just not going to get made. I'm sorry. Like, so she has an ear for dialogue. And she has an idea of what set pieces should look like. She knows what character growth and development looks like. And she's one of the best in the business.
Yeah. Anything she has her name on is completely at the least is completely watchable. Though the Robert Zemeckis, you can say whatever you want to say about that man, and I have a lot to say about that man, but he makes watchable movies, right? Like
highly watchable.
Yeah. In terms of like, he's tried something, it's doing something. This is interesting. I can't turn away.
You guys just made me think that like the path to like Star Wars glory is paved in the corpses of really, really great writers. Lord and Miller were there. She's like, absolutely
that's
not.
Everything, in my opinion.
Yeah. Like, there's a lot of great writers that have been just at the last minute, like, negged and been like, nope, sorry, can't do it. We're going to move.
I also love how much she will I love how much she'll just fire people. I kind of love it. And I'm not a big person of, like, I don't love firing people, but in terms of just like her just going like, nah, it's not working. We're pulling the plug. Sorry. Like we can't keep doing it. Like we've given, like, I don't know, the second she fired, what's his name from episode 9. I was like, you are my hero. What's the guy's name who did Jurassic World?
Oh, Trevorrow. Yeah.
Trevorrow.
Trevorrow.
Yeah, Trevorrow. Yeah, sorry. Yeah. And he's made some good movies. I'm just going to go ahead and say that. No, you aren't allowed to comment on it.
Safety Night, Guaranteed is a good movie. Yeah. It's like a fun watch.
Yes.
Book of Henry, tough watch.
Book of Henry.
I think I said no comments were allowed, but okay.
Is wild. It is.
Adam, have you watched all?
Yes, I have watched Book of Henry twice because that movie is, like, I don't like to use this word, but I will use it. That movie is crazy. That movie is absolutely mentally insane, and it is a movie I'll watch to just be like, no. You have to watch this movie. You do not understand. This kid leaves a book that tells his mother how to, like, murder people. Like, you got to watch this movie. Like,
we got to start the Unwatchables podcast. Can we do that?
I love it.
Is it first episode, Tree of Life?
Book of Henry, first episode 1.
Gosh. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I think that her best move was bringing in Gilroy. Yes, I think Gareth Edwards makes a great movie.
That's a fully Kathleen decision, by the way. She has a relationship with Tony Gilroy. She brought him in. She knew the work was going to be incredible. What more do you need from a CEO of an incredible thing that you love? Like, what more do you need?
Right. And I think 75% of that movie is Gareth Edwards. Like, I don't want to shortchange him either, but just the fact that she was like, it needs a little more. And then made a masterstroke.
I also think like that movie, like I almost want that movie to go through the edit bay one more time. Like I want to see the people in the walking through the surf, the stormtroopers and Krennic. Yeah. Like there's things that are left on the cutting room floor. The best shot from The Force Awakens is left on the cutting room floor. The shot of Kylo igniting the saber in the snow that's in the trailer is not in the movie.
I don't know why
shots of the stormtroopers and Krennic walking through the waves on Scarif is not in Rogue One. I was like, I don't care how these shots get into the movie. If Krennic just wanted to like go fishing, like
just like get him in the surf with some shore troopers
on the surf.
I don't know.
Like, I don't
also,
care
just
how you do it. Like those shots need to be in the movie.
I don't care. Just cut to that planet, have that happening, and then cut to another scene.
Yeah.
Just you know what I mean? Like, just who cares? Just give me that shot.
What if he's looking at a dead fish after like a weird test or something?
Yeah, you can find a way. Like, I mean, you have the scene with Jyn Erso and the TIE fighter rising up. Not in the movie. That's in the
the best shot.
Like I think like
her
50%
with all the gear on and like walking through that tunnel is like not in the movie.
50%. I literally think 50. I think it's been shown that 50% of what's in that trailer is not in that movie.
Wow.
That's not even a joke. I literally think that's what the number.
So I think those are Gareth Edwards shots too. I think he is incredibly visionary when it comes to the characters and the framing and the action moments where they're basically like lining up with all their rifles, all that sort of stuff, and doing the things that characters do when they're infiltrating base. And so like, I think Gareth Edwards is one of the best in the business to do that. Like I really like how he shoots action and how he showcases action characters who are soldiers, could be droids, could be whatever. I don't care. However he does it is usually pretty satisfying, especially for people who want to see that sort of stuff.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, anyways, just wanted to give them credit. That's enough about that movie. Yeah. We're
Taika?
Yeah, Taika. So this, it was listed in here, co-written by Christy Wilson Cairns, and I do have notes on her. Right. Oh, she wrote 1917, which is wild, which was a great movie.
Oh, okay.
1917 is literally one of my favorite movies of the last 10 years. Mainly because when they go down to that little like pond and the camera just like tracks along the water.
Yeah.
And then they go up on the hill. I was like, is this not? And then the score comes in. Honestly, go rewatch 1917.
It's so funny that we all are agreeing on this because
I just watched it recently, actually. And
I watched it like 2 years ago, and I was just like, because I have this thing of like, I used to go see all the Best Picture nominations in the theater, and then like COVID and other stuff, so I haven't done that, and having a kid, but I always have a list of all of them, and even if I don't watch them before the year, I have to watch them. So it's on my list of like 300 things to watch, and 1917 came up, and I put it on not expecting anything, and I was just like, this is great. Like, this is so good, so much better than it deserves to be, and I thought it would be, and the way people talked about it, which is like not much at all. Like, people didn't like insult it, but it was just like it didn't get much discussion.
It has a third act problem in my opinion, but that's fine.
Okay.
It has a like very contrived
Was it the sudden
general
reveal
who's like, oh, I'll take that information, thank you, and the movie ends, and I'm just like, okay, like,
or the sudden reveal of Benedict Cumberbatch, which is given
Benedict Cumberbatch,
which is given like a hero's reveal of just like
you got Cumberbatch
behind camera.
Yeah,
it's real weird. I'm like, okay, like that's a reveal. Like, why are you revealing this random dude?
Yeah, just get excited about Cumberbatch. You've been Cumberbatch.
He's a great guy.
So don't get too excited about her because she has been removed from this picture. And so when I went back through the history of this is the one at the top that I misremembered. That was like in 2022, they're like, Taika was like, I think we're going to begin filming this in 2023. Or no, we were about to begin filming it and it was going to like release in 2023.
Yep.
And it was not, obviously. So that leads me to believe that like maybe Christie took a whack at this and it got KK'd.
Probably. This was announced the same time that the Acolyte was announced. This was during that D23 when they announced, here's everything coming, like the Rangers of the New Republic.
Yeah.
Right. Remember that whole thing? And we covered, like, I think that's when it was like pandemic-y, and we were like, we did every single day of coverage of D23. Remember we did like daily reports?
Yeah.
Because what else were you going to do during the pandemic? And that's how long ago this was announced.
Right.
Yeah. Here's a couple things I have thoughts about this. The bloom is off of Taika Waititi's Rose in some ways. Not completely, but he's not as big of a powerhouse as he used to be. His last movie did just nothing, that soccer movie, which looks good. He did the Time Bandits show. Yeah. Canceled. And
Our Flag Means Death is a triumph. That's an amazing show.
So I like him a lot. This is not my personal. This is just like he's had a couple of like failures. Recently. I mean, Our Flag is Death. Everyone go watch that movie. That show is. I feel so lucky and blessed that we got 2 seasons of that thing.
Yeah.
Because how did we ever get 2 seasons of a show like that?
Rhys Darby and Taika Waititi.
Rhys Darby is amazing. Rhys Darby's going to be on Star Trek next season, Star Trek Brave New Worlds.
Nice.
So I feel like this could mean one of two things, which is like now he might be like, okay, I gotta like do this because I need to get a big thing out there, right? Like I need to get my name back out, or they kind of move away from him because he's not as big. So that's one thing. The other thing, this is a little bit jokey, but this almost feels like, so he has this meta joke that he's created. So he wrote, along with Jermaine Clement from Flight of the Conchords, he co-wrote and directed What We Do in the Shadows, the movie What We Do in the Shadows. In that movie, there are a group of werewolves. Also, Rhys Darby alert, one of the werewolves played by Rhys Darby.
Nice.
Who has the best line in the entire movie. We're werewolves, not swearwolves, which is one of the best lines in the entire movie. Okay. Come on, guys, we're werewolves, not swearwolves. So it's a good bit. Imagine Rhys Darby. It's a good bit.
So good.
It's good, great. But he has announced, since that movie came out a decade ago, that we're making a sequel, and it's called We're Wolves. Like
nice.
we
are wolves. Yeah.
And so he keeps announcing it every year, and he's made jokes of just like when you read stuff, he's like, I'm never making that movie. I just keep announcing that movie's being made to like F with people.
Yeah.
And so part of me is like, is this just his meta joke on the Star Wars thing of just announcing I'm making a Star Wars movie and never gonna actually do it?
No, because when people ask him, they're always dead serious, and it's like,
yes,
the tone changes a little bit, and he's got to be protective about whatever. And I feel like the story's changed. He's like, yeah, I'm going to do a thing, and it'll be a thing. And, so now, I mean, he's the only writer attached to it now. So I think, I saw there's the next movie that we're going to cover, the Sean Levy movie. The quote that was attached to it was an interview with Levy, and he said, Kathleen Kennedy just came up to me and was like, I want a Sean Levy movie. And, like, that makes...
Why?
I mean, why? Like, they're encouraged,
Like, gross box office gross. Like, why?
Yes.
I don't understand. At all.
But I mean, I think the same could be applied to Taika, where she's just like, just make your movie and be in your time.
Taika to me, like when I just looked back at all our predictions for Taika movies, and like Adam was like, he should do Afra, and I was like, if anyone should do Afra, it should be Taika Waititi. Like,
I still stand by it.
Projects that I'm just like. Scream Taika Waititi in the Star Wars galaxy. That I'm astounded that
he has a voice that would absolutely fit. Give him a droids movie, just a movie of droids. He'd be great at. Like he could do everything.
I mean, like Sean Levy again. Like, how much of it is Sean Levy, and how much of it is Ryan Reynolds for the most recent Deadpool Wolverine success? Like, how much? Like to me, it's so Ryan Reynolds coded.
The vast majority is Ryan Reynolds. Like to be honest, like
the vast majority.
He has created and made the Deadpool series be successful on his own back. Like he has manifested Deadpool. Like that's all Ryan Reynolds.
Sean Levy just facilitated Ryan Reynolds with all he wanted to do.
Yes.
So I mean, maybe that's what that quote means. Is just like, I don't want you to be Ryan Reynolds. I want you to be Sean Levy. Like do your own thing. And it's like.
Well,
maybe he has.
Let's look at what his own thing is. Can we IMDb?
Yes, let's see. So I don't know if he's capable of that because his last 3 movies are all Ryan Reynolds movies, and those are his only most successful movies, which are Free Guy, which is a completely watchable film. Free Guy is watchable. The Adam Project, which is a mediocre time travel movie that Ryan Reynolds and him make watchable. Yep. So that's good.
Oh yeah, that was fun actually.
Do you know what's in that movie? Lightsabers.
Oh right.
That movie has lightsabers in it. So he's been trying to make a Star Wars movie for a while.
Okay, so now it checks out.
And then Deadpool and Wolverine, completely watchable. Like he makes but those are all Ryan Reynolds. Before that, he did the 3 Night at the Museums. I don't have anything to say about that. He made and then he was on
they're incredibly watchable and they're okay.
And they're funny, right?
Yeah, they're fine. He made The Internship and Date Night.
Internship is a phenomenal comedy.
Yes, it's a really good comedy.
Oh my gosh, Internship is Vince Vaughn?
Yeah, Vince Vaughn.
He wrote a Vince Vaughn movie?
We were in a blender. Now we're saving lives.
Now we're saving lives.
Okay, I don't know. I don't think you can ever say he wroed a Vince Vaughn comedy because I don't think Vince Vaun has ever read a line.
I think Vince Vaughn improv was bad.
Yeah, I think Vince Vaughn writes his own lines.
I think you're right too. But oh my god, no man, The Internship was one of the funniest movies. I watched that in the Pandy, and it's just like it's just vintage Vince Vaughn is just like. Going off.
It might be the last. It might be the last Vince Vaughn you've gotten.
But it's like if you could just plug in Vince Vaughn and watch him go and sell a bunch of tickets, you would. And a lot of people have tried. And let's face it, there are some Vince Vaughn movies that are better than others. That one's top of the mountain for me.
Post Wedding Crashers dodgeball comedy for Vince Vaughn, do you take The Internship or do you take The Watch?
Really? So those are my two tops.
Yeah, the two
I
choices.
think I'm taking The Internship. Yeah. Because you
I'm
get
taking The
more.
Watch.
I mean, with
I'll
Vince
take The
Vaughn,
Watch. I'll be that guy.
it's pure quantity. Like I'm just like give me more of him doing his thing, and I'm in. And like that's. And I think there's just
watching.
more.
He's got.
Have you been
so
watching?
Much Owen Wilson though. I guess he's sharing with an ensemble in The Watch.
Can I?
Yeah.
Okay. Can I do a quick Vince Vaughn corner? So I just watched the movie Freaky. Has anyone watched Freaky?
Oh yeah, that's like a horror killer.
The horror comedy. It's Freaky Friday, but what if instead of like a mom and a daughter change place, a daughter and Jason Voorhees change places?
Yeah.
Played by Vince Vaughn because he's a giant, intimidating man, and he becomes a teenage. So in the movie, he's then in with his like high school friends pretending to be a teenage girl, and he's so good at doing that thing. So it's not like it's not like classic Vince Vaughn because he's doing an impression. He's really good at it. It's also uber violent. Like when Carly watched it, I'm like, yeah, do you want to watch a guy get bisected by a saw? No. Okay, this movie might not be for you.
Maybe another night. Yeah.
Also, Bad Monkey is Vince Vaughn being Vince Vaughn again.
I've only watched episode 1 and 2. It gets the first 2 episodes.
It gets
I need
much
to keep going.
better. It gets more Vince Vaughn-y as it goes.
I'm into that whole Elmer Leonard sort of like Floridian.
I love it. It's just it's a tone. It's its own thing.
Stuff.
Yeah. I heard an interview.
Toto, Wookie roar.
Like, yeah, not happening.
Since we're still in,
what minute are we on?
Now I want Vince Vaughn in like this Star Wars. Like I don't even care. I'm like, let's go.
Yeah, I was like, how do we get Vince Vaughn in a Star Wars?
Yeah.
How do we get Tom Hardy in a Star Wars? We're like talking about these people.
Yeah.
So it's interesting.
Being in Star Wars, awesome. I love that idea.
I will say the thing about Sean Levy is he does seem to attach himself to actors, or not attach himself, but like works with actors. Because he had like Cheaper by the Dozen and the Pink Panther. So those are both Steve Martin movies, right? So he worked with Steve Martin 2 movies in a row. Then he had like the 3 Night in the Museum. So he worked with Ben Stiller over 3 movies.
Yeah.
Then he had Real Steel, which we didn't talk about because why would anyone ever talk about Real Steel? But that's Hugh Jackman.
That's a very Star Warsian code.
Right.
Yeah,
but do we need to talk about like that movie is the most down the middle summer movie, right?
Yeah.
Like it is it does the job.
That's a talent though to write that movie. You know.
Right.
I don't think he wrote these
no,
movies.
he directed it.
Right. He did not
write
write
it.
it.
The only movie he's quote unquote written is Deadpool and Wolverine. And I don't know how much is that he wrote versus how much Ryan
He wrote
Reynolds.
all the other characters maybe, and Ryan Reynolds is.
He wrote maybe like the plot and then none of the dialogue.
If he did what is this Wolverine doing up at here drinking my alcohol? If he wrote like the Gambit stuff, like
sold.
Oh yeah.
So clearly he's in terms of a director.
Thanks, Grant. Thanks.
People like him, and he clearly works well because he has a lot of repeat customers, which to me always screams he's a good director. He takes care of the actors. And so maybe that's part of why the other reason Kathleen Kennedy is because he gets these movies made. He gets movies that are made that are successful, and he can work with actors and people like him. Like that might be part of it is he knows it's a trusted person to direct it. I don't see much in here that screams Star Wars to me, but I don't know.
Maybe he's a fan.
I don't know.
It'll be great.
I don't know.
I'm excited for it. Now I'm just like
I'm not. But good for you.
I'm glad you are, man. Because I'm over here. Why? These people are empirically not not the people I choose for this.
No, but I mean these are people that have just like been like even at their worst are still putting out mediocre watchable fun movies. And it's like if they want to play in the Star Wars space and that's their baseline, and then you surround them with all the encouragement and resources of Lucasfilm, maybe they can find another gear or really tell like a really fun, interesting Star Wars.
When you frame it like that, I feel bad for being so negative on it. It's like I do want these people to sort of like come together and sort of find a avenue in which people can sort of unlock their visions in the Star Wars galaxy. I love that sort of stuff. Like that stuff I'm very hopeful for. Like that's why I love the Star Wars and the Jedi, the Director and the Jedi sort of documentary with Rian Johnson. I just loved like seeing someone sort of like ache over working in this galaxy and loving it and sort of finding that space and that lane to build something for themselves that they absolutely love and that they hope fans will love and things like that. I'm just hoping we're making these choices based on that sort of integrity and love of the craft and Star Wars and unlocking these visions other than like the idea that like what a massive gross for an incredibly sort of funny, slapsticky kind of movie. Like this person would be great if they could just give us that boost, here or something like that. I just wouldn't like if that's the sort of logic.
No, me either. But I will say he did direct. He's directed a ton of Stranger Things episodes, which I didn't realize that's what he comes from.
Oh, right,
wow.
And,
okay.
But he directed the episode from last season called Dear Billy, which is the best episode of Stranger Things and a triumph of an episode. And actually, now I'm based on an episode along, because that is a very well directed and very dramatic episode that there's no comedy. Like it's very so. But I was like,
but how much synthwave and like pulpy dialogue carry Stranger Things? You know what I mean? Like
only so far, dude.
A little different of an animal.
It only goes so far, man. That show can get really empty really fast if they don't do some interesting things.
Do you remember how much everyone was in love with Kate Bush's Running Up the Hill?
Yeah.
Yeah,
it's because of that episode.
Because of
like that's how much
he
directed the thing
that
stuff. I mean,
like again with Ryan Reynolds and Deadpool, like he will not have that in his arsenal with Star Wars. Needle drops will not.
But I don't think it's Kate Bush's Running Up the Hill that I don't think the needle drop.
Yeah,
I think it's the directing that made
that song
so popular, not the needle drop. It was because there's also when you watch that, like that song has meaning, right? Like they're building up why that song has meaning throughout the entire. So it's not even like a needle drop.
You know what? I successfully pushed back, and you guys debated it well, and there was some Sean Levy support on the pod tonight. I'm very happy about it. I'm excited to wake up tomorrow and think, what does the future hold with Sean Levy? I'm excited. It's very interesting.
Grant, I am mostly trying to like get positive. I am more on your side. I do not see anything here. That one episode. I mean, part of the thing that makes me, I'm trying to like look for like things that are.
I'm a Free Guy. Like I love Free Guy.
Free Guy is so watchable. It's so fun. It's so fun.
I think another way to look at this is like, we had Ryan Johnson, we had Leslie Headland. Some like Leslie Headland. Obviously, this was like what her first feature film, maybe not her first, but like relatively like young, exciting.
I think first show,
second prestige series, maybe?
Right? Yeah. So relatively like new to the craft, and she's doing that. I think Star Wars will always do that. I hope they always do it. But I think this is the opposite end of the scale, where you've got these people with established resumes of making profits on movies, telling good stories. So it's like, Sean Levy, Taika Waititi, James Mangold, like. A bunch of people that are like, listen, even, these guys are all batting at least like $2.99, like they're doing well up there. And then you let them excel and like, well, what happens now?
It's a very smart, risk averse, approach.
Exactly.
I mean, it worked with Tony Gilroy, right? Like,
yeah.
Right. Well, I don't know. Tony Gilroy, I would love to look at the economics of Tony Gilroy.
Yeah, honestly. I agree. I think he has prestige. But I don't know if he has the box office to follow it. And you look at like Sean Levy, as much as these films don't stream, he has, as a director, very few financial misses.
Right.
Very few.
True.
Like
100%.
And he's
like a guaranteed success.
He slowly moved his way up. The thing that I'm kind of like, maybe this will be okay, is exactly what I was talking about before. He's not a writer. So he doesn't really write, right? So if you get the right script in front of him and you make it more action, fun-based, like a fun adventure, like even maybe like something like whatever Skeleton's Crew is going to be, like maybe make it a younger film, a film with like just this kind of like a kid's adventure film. Maybe that's something I would be excited about.
Well, to me, it's like you got Taika Waititi and Sean Levy, and they're both like, that's like Afro-coded, sort of like cynical, smart, quippy, sort of like archaeologist character running around the galaxy like Deadpool. You know what I mean? Or you like, to me, it's like you have these certain directors and creatives who would just crush that specific character in that journey.
Yeah.
So
I mean,
all what you put in front of them.
So I want to ask you guys a clarifying question. Like we haven't gotten a pure adaptation onto live action yet in Star Wars. So I'm kind of wondering, like, will that ever happen, or do you think it'll be more like what we're seeing with Filoni and Zahn, where it's not Zahn, sorry, Thrawn, where it's sort of like you're in the same universe using the same characters but not telling the same story? Is that like, do you think that's what they? Do you think that's how they would deal with a Dr. Aphra story?
Yeah, I think in Dr. Aphra, I think probably what they do in Dr. Aphra is, if you look at the comics, we leave her post. When's the last time her series was set?
In
Return of the Jedi. I mean, we leave her at the end of the dark droids,
dark
sort of
droids.
like all that stuff.
Yeah. So I guess you probably just tell her story. We know she's alive. You just said it post Return
I think
of the Jedi.
she's living with Sana Starros.
You can't do meeting Vader and meet Vader.
Yeah,
like,
you could.
Meeting Vader, to me, Aphra and Vader are intertwined. So essentially, if you want Vader back in anything, he actually makes the most sense to be back in an Aphra story.
Yeah,
you absolutely could do it. There's plenty of runway to tell a story that's Aphra, that's even within where the comic run was, because we're not with her every second. That you could have slot in a new.
Hey, did either of you guys read the Aphra novel that was based off the comics? That's technically an adaptation, but not to live action.
Out of the 150 Star Wars books I've read in the last 2 years, I'm sure it was one of them.
I did not read that, but I remember that happened.
I'm going to put that on my list, actually, because I think it like starts with her like getting spaced by Vader, and I'm like, pretty close, and like I
think it's written like a stage play though. Like I think I read it, but I think I have the book
like
literally
like an audio. Okay. Isn't it an audio?
It's like an audiobook / stage play.
Because it shows up on the list of novels, like at the beginning of every Star Wars novel, where they list all the novels.
Mm-hmm.
That's one of them, and so I always look at that one, and I'm like, it's like the one I haven't read. So I'm like,
by Sarah Kuhn.
So it's an auto. So just to warn you, Ben, it's an audiobook original that is an adaptation of the thing, and then they showed it, and then they
just like read the like bubbles from the comics.
So
I think they rewrote it,
but they attached to. I mean, Karen Gillan and what's the Sly Spurrier run? That second run of comics.
Yeah. I got to go back and reread after.
If you had Sly Spurrier, Sarah Kuhn writing, and then you have Sean Levy direct an Aphra piece.
Let's go.
Sure.
I'm in the theater for that.
Yeah.
Like I'm there, front row, like whatever, like not front row. That's not
opening
ideal
day.
either.
You're like bang. I'm getting my seat. Yeah. All right. So we have two more here. One is Rogue Squadron. So we're at the dregs now. It's like poor Patty Jenkins. I hope she'll make this movie. I don't know what else she's working on. I feel like she's submitted multiple scripts and they've been like, nope, try again. And I think she just got frustrated and worked on other things. But I don't know what she's doing right now.
She got frustrated in the Wonder Woman, her experience on Wonder Woman 1984. Like, I just feel like I can see why she's just like, I need a break from working on a big IP.
Yeah.
Like, she got kicked in the teeth in that one, is somewhat unfairly. It may not be my favorite movie, but like, boy, does that movie take swings.
Yeah.
And the more I think about the movie, I'm like, wow, that's wild.
That movie felt like it was made like 10 years prior, essentially.
Yeah.
I was like, wow, this movie feels like it was made in like 1998. Yeah. And obviously covering the 80s.
Yeah.
But
I enjoyed it though, and I will say, from like, just as a aside here, however many hours into this podcast we are, whenever I listen to interviews with these people that make movies, it's like it is just getting beat up from start. It's like they just want to get their creative vision out, and it's just like you're hearing it from all the people involved with the money. You're hearing it from the studio. You're hearing it from the press. You're hearing it from, like, it's just like it's a constant battle to try and get the movie you want to make out there. And I'm just saying, like, hey, I'm just like, let's give these people, they're human beings. It's a tough road, and they're doing their best, and everyone's doing their best.
But that's not interesting, like, content though. Like, okay, I mean, like, we're here to be like,
you got to feed the beast.
Do you guys want something that's more stealth, or do you want something that's more tough?
Yeah, that was a brief aside, Grant. I just want to say these people are people, but like, no, I don't want to shred these people like they're not human beings when they're actually like very accomplished creators.
It's horrible to even cover this stuff and be critical and analytical of it. That's why we're already engaging in it with it. But I'm like, I'm going to go here, and I feel terrible about it. But like, do you guys want it more like stealth, or do you want it more?
No,
like top
you
gun?
go.
Like,
that's just for me. That's just for me, Grant. You follow.
Let's also be easy on ourselves, because like I don't think anyone, even if we talked about like Sean Levy and not like necessarily seeing his visions for Star Wars, we did list a ton of things that we liked that he did, right? So it's not like we're sitting here going, he's a horrible director.
We will always
go kill himself. Like we're like, we're just being critical and thoughtful, and I think we came around and we found.
That's just for me, just to say, hey, these people are human beings.
And we found a lane, but I agree with you. It's like just
I just love that kindness and goodness exists on our podcasts, and we will always be a bastion of that sort of attitude. Which is
but we need to be critical
as
well, and that's fine.
Yeah, which I think we thread that needle.
If we're gonna broach
listeners,
the topic,
let us if we
I
don't.
almost want to really get in.
Yeah, get into it. Get into it, man. I've
take
what
the
I did,
shovel out.
Grant, was licensing because I said we love you all and you're all human beings. Now we can say what we want about them.
Exactly. They stopped
called
listening. They know we
licensing.
love
It's
them, so they're good.
That.
Yeah.
All right. Do you guys want this more like Top Gun, or do you guys want this more like a gritty sort of like is it romanticizing fighter like squadron fighting?
Yeah,
like
I think that's the idea.
Starfighter combat, or is it sort of like in the depths and the bowels of starfighter combat and tactical?
Yes, I want that, and then I want what Battlestar Galactica the reboot gave us, which is like the Viper pilots. Like some of my favorite scenes in that series is when the Viper pilots are just in the ready room, hang out, playing cards with each other, talking to each other, right? And then suddenly alarms come off and they have to switch into fighter pilot mode. Like I want that. Like I want a war movie. This idea of just like downtime and they serve a purpose. What I don't want is Top Gun Maverick, which Top Gun Maverick
very successful, by the way.
So no.
Adam, highly successful.
No. Let me. Top Gun Maverick might be a perfect movie. That is a movie I've watched 3 or 4 times now. Like we'll randomly put it on because that movie is well directed. It's like perfectly scripted. But you know what that movie is? That movie is a stealth Star Wars movie because it literally ends with a trench run. They just redo Star Wars in the third act of that movie. They're like, you know what works Star Wars? We're just going to do it. Like literally, they have to fly down a canyon and then hit a target, and then bank up. I'm like, yeah, we saw Luke do it. So like, I don't want to see that because now I'm going to see the third iteration of this thing, right? Like like it's a copy of a copy of a copy.
Yeah. But I mean, I think you're talking about tone, right, Grant? And I think ultimately, you're going to get people in cockpits doing crazy stunts and it's going to be super action packed.
But are they smiling and playing beach volleyball, or they're like always wearing their fatigues and ready to engage in the combat missions at all times?
I want that. I want them burnt out.
Yeah, and that's the way it should be. Yeah, I don't think we're going to get beach volleyball. I think then you get into the.
I think you might get beach volleyball.
Yeah.
Honestly. I honestly think based on the trajectory and success of Maverick,
you need some light moments.
I think you might get a romanticizing of the culture. Essentially,
you're going to get jet juice around a campfire, right?
Yeah.
Like, but I don't know. Maybe they play some cards, right? That's what like
they play some piano.
They're playing Sabacc. I want them playing Sabacc on the when they're up. But like we do get a little bit of that in. It's so funny because you look at like you look at Wonder Woman the original. You get like both of those tones throughout the film. Like you get the fun and whatever, but like it's a pretty interesting view of World War I. Like them like walking through no man's land and then talking to the soldiers that were there. You do get that grittiness, and you do see the soldiers that are exhausted. They move on from that pretty quickly, but like we've seen her do that stuff. Yeah. But like part of me bets is if she's gonna do what she does, she's gonna try to give us both, which will be interesting.
Because I'd almost rather it's like, is this gonna be Thin Red Line or is this gonna be beach volleyball? Yeah.
Yeah, it's going to be beach volleyball.
Just like some spice-addled stuff.
Yeah, I love that. I'm gonna,
Sorry.
I'm gonna invert the plane. No, that's what he.
I don't know. I'm just trying to name
lands the plane.
It's going to be a shot-for-shot recreation of Red Tails.
That was a question on Jeopardy today.
Red Tails. Nice.
Yeah, I was the only one that got it, and everyone stared at me. I'm like, "What? It's a George Lucas film."
Yep.
Yeah.
All right.
$2,000.
I'm just looking at Paddington's history here.
Yeah. What else you got?
I mean, the promo was like what set the stage, right? It was like her on an airstrip on a motorcycle driving over to like an F-16. Like that was the teaser trailer we got for the Patty Jenkins Rogue Squadron movie. So it's like that's not really leaving a lot of room to read between the lines. It's just like pure beach volleyball.
Yeah. She did direct the
Monster
pilot. Yeah, and she directed the pilot episode of The Killing, which is the bleakest show from AMC ever. So she can do gritty, bleak things based on a Danish show, which is even more depressing.
And I think Star Wars is right in between those, right? Like really bleak and depressing, and then beach volleyball, Top Gun.
Who's our guy who wrote the Alphabet Squadron books? Alexander Freed, is that right?
Yeah, man, great memory. I was just about to say, like,
man, if the Patty Jenkins Freed team up, like, I'm there, like, because like I feel like That was the best version of a starfighter movie.
And it was weird because when this was announced, I feel like we were reading Alphabet Squadron. We were like, well, why would we do this again? But I mean, probably because they were getting good feedback on it, and then it's like, well, this is in the pipeline. It was still 3 years out or 4 years out.
She has not directed a movie since Wonder Woman 1984. She hasn't directed anything since that. That so really,
maybe she's just burnt.
Yikes, that's a bummer. Because she's like, you look like a monster in the original Wonder Woman, and like the TV that she's directed. That's a bummer. Like, so yeah. I don't know.
She's reinventing the fighter pilot movie right now with Star Wars.
I hope so.
That takes some time. Yeah. I mean, that really does, I imagine, take some time to really figure out a plot that's not Top Gun or it's not going to be immediately.
Yeah. I would love nothing more than her taking 4 years to write a Star Wars script or any,
Right. Yeah. I'm fine with it. It's an incredible IP, and I think you just to be brought in and take your time is fine.
She is apparently busy right now, directing a untitled live action Lego film.
Oh my gosh, live action Lego.
I don't know.
That doesn't make sense.
She needs money. She's gotta feed the monkey.
She's working with Jeff Johns to write a script of her film Cornish and Turn.
Wait, Jeff
reviving
Johns, DC fame, Jeff Johns?
Yeah.
I want nothing to do with it.
Yeah, I don't know.
Just wanted to make sure.
Speaking of,
I hate bashing creatives who eventually put things out into the market that are great, and then I'm like, I said this on the podcast like 8 years ago, but it's like,
I don't know. I love when someone proves me wrong, right? Like, honestly, especially if I'm negative, like, prove me wrong. Oh, great, thank you.
We should live in a society where you can be proven wrong. It's fine.
Yeah.
All right. Speaking of other people that have taken a really long time to write a script, Rian Johnson, allegedly, and recently he talked about this, is still tabbed to do his own trilogy, and he, but the Knives Out trilogy got in the way. He's like, I'm gonna just do this first. Which is about to come to its end, right? They're about to release the third movie. So Ryan, it's like, and I think he's been sort of thinking about this trilogy in the back of his mind while he's been, working on all these other ones. So this actually could come together pretty quickly.
This is my most anticipated project out of all the projects we've discussed this far. And I wasn't the biggest fan of The Last Jedi, but my quarrels are obviously like well debated on this podcast, and they have nothing to do with sort of the messaging and thematics of the film. It's more about just certain decisions. But I think if he's had, again, I think the problem with The Last Jedi is it's an incredible sort of singular standalone story that's just sandwiched between two films that just feel like they're part of a different thing. And for him to get his own trilogy is very exciting to me. It feels like the ideas can sort of organically grow from beginning to end without any choppiness, which is very fun.
I agree. And we've talked about that. I mean, the Knives Out trilogy I thought has been really fun so far. The first two movies I really enjoyed. They're great. And same thing.
No, super fun movies. I've watched both of them, highly enjoyed them. I didn't get ahead of them, which I always appreciate with a mystery movie. I didn't, I had my suspicions. The second one was a little the second was just like, no, it's you kind of thought it probably was the entire time. But but he did it in a smart way that like a lot of like whatever. And the thing I like about both those movies is when you rewatch them, they're both fair, meaning that he doesn't cheat with the reveal, that it's there, the clues are there, like he's laid it out, and I think that's great. I mean, he has done, like, you look at his movies like Looper, that I'm not the biggest fan of Looper.
Yeah, we've talked
at
Looper, length,
but
both of us don't really like them.
It makes me feel like you and I both feel a little queasy, icky when I watch that movie, but like great world development. Great thought process, like super creative. Like his movie Brick, right, which is like a film noir movie that takes place in high school, is just so well done. Like he could take a concept and work within it in a way. And like I think Grant, said it perfectly, where like I love The Last Jedi, but boy does that movie not feel like it fits into the sequel trilogy. It does feel exactly what Grant said. And so like I'm on board of just like, I want to know what he can do where he wholly creates. Like I think the other place he struggled a little bit was working with already created characters. I felt like he was a bit boxed in, and he had to kind of like do stuff with them, and he wanted to do more with them, but he couldn't because it would break the character, break the story. So give him a trilogy where he can create his own characters and do what he wants with them, and I'm excited about that.
And I mean, I think I think he's learned from his time away, and he acknowledged the fact that like he really was like wanted The Last Jedi to feel like a fully formed 3-act, like almost its own trilogy within a trilogy, and so he's self-aware of it.
It's a beautiful proof of concept for a trilogy. If you were to hire someone to make it,
and he slapped it in there, and so. That I think it's all to say he's lived, he's learned, and yeah, super. And again, like we talked about at the top, like he's a known quantity. Like we know Rian Johnson has the ability to make like an amazing Star Wars, and yeah, to get 3 of them, I think would be fantastic. But we'll just have to see where he's at. But I'd love to get in like 6 months, like he could be like, I'm working on a script, and that would be really cool.
What's great about that, I see just substance from Ryan. Like, I feel like he is just looking to have, again, what we've talked about, I think, over and over again on this podcast, is dialogue and sort of new sort of story devices and things like that, where it's just like, I think he's like, I'm not going to even talk about this thing until this is fully situated and I have every arc lined up and everything means something in connection to the original trilogy and then all of Star Wars for that matter. And yeah, I think he's a very smart creative in the fact that like he has a finished product before he begins to even discuss it.
And I think that's why he works in the system, because like if you remember, like The Last Jedi was like, of the 3 movies, was the one that had the least drama in production, didn't need to get shut down, didn't have other stuff. He got it done on time. Like there were very few edits. Like it was one of those movies that was just like, it was done.
And it's written and directed by, which is awesome because it's George, right? That's he's that high level creative who also can get the product on time and looking beautiful. Like I think that's something else that they're probably very attracted to with him. He works within that giant system quite well. Or I guess George didn't write any Star Wars the original. Like
he wrote
what's wholly written and directed by George. A New Hope.
New Hope.
Yeah, I think A New Hope, right? Because then he hired what's
Kasdan
and then there was even before Kasdan, he wrote that sci-fi author.
Yes.
But that Kasdan then built off of that. Yeah. Anyway. Yeah.
Right on, man. So that's it. I mean, that's the slate, which is a pretty considerable slate, as it were.
Lee Brackett.
Lee Brackett. Yeah. Thank you.
And that's a lot of really fun Star Wars things we have in the hopper, and I think, I know that Disney wants to make more Star Wars feature films, and hopefully they'll be great. So it's like we've been waiting a long time, but I think then it's gonna kind of be raining Star Wars for a bit. Like, I mean, there could be years where we get 2 Star Wars movies in a row. I think after 2026, we're probably gonna get a movie a year at least.
At least. I wonder, I know like that was the grand experiment. I think it depends on how well they do, but if we're looking at this, that's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14. Those are 14 films that we've talked about today. That is the next decade and a half of Star Wars movies if they're only releasing it at one movie.
That's what's like
year.
Got me a little bit sad as an old man, because I was like, I'm like, wait a second, like if the next thing is Knights of the Old Republic, like I'm not even gonna be alive for that.
My daughter will be away at college. My daughter will be away at college by the time the last of these.
Also, like if Dawn of the Jedi explodes, I imagine like creators will jump on all these properties that are situated near that movie. So,
I think it all depends on how not wholly, but a big part of it is how to kind of bring it back before is how Mandalorian Grogu does in the box office. It does, Bafo, box office. Then we might ramp it up to 2. We'll see. I think they're a little gun shy after the Solo issue, which again, the issue with Solo is that they paid 2 directors they paid for 2
movies.
Made
it twice.
They made it twice. And if they made it once and released it and made the box office they would have been fine financially. So some of these should be, that's the other thing too, is the lesson they need to learn is the lesson most of these things do is not everything needs to be $300 million to make. Like some of these need to be less expensive, smaller films, some of them be more expensive, right? Like just...
Yeah, it's interesting that there's sort of like margin targets, because it's like, it's not like, well, I don't know how to judge it. I guess, I don't know how they measure it, but I guess the Acolyte didn't make enough money, right? But...
Well, the TV is its own thing.
Right.
It's all made up numbers and fake. And movies, your general rule of thumb with movies is you need to double your budget before you get into profit land.
I honestly think all the reporting around the Acolyte is sensationalized, and that Leslie Headland's very much still a part of other sort of development.
I think so
processes
too.
and that there might be secret projects in place and things like that. Because I just think people just read into the headlines too much, and then just take a break. Take a break from the internet. I dare you to take a break from the internet. I dare you.
Yeah, please, everyone, just take a break. Because I think part of what's going on with The Acolyte is it seemed to be like the numbers did. When you look at the numbers from a wholly financial standpoint, you can understand the decision not to do a second season. That does not mean it's a failure and that they're cutting ties with Leslie Headland because of whatever. It just means like you did a shot. We liked what you did. It just didn't connect. Let's get you on something else to take another shot because we like working with you and you make good product. For some reason, it just didn't connect, right? But we like you. We're going to keep working with you. I feel
the show's expensive because of the art direction. We talked about that in this pod anytime. We're just like, this is a new era. This is essentially Doug Chiang going back to the square one and reinventing the prequels. Right. It's reinventing the High Republic. Where the ship design is awesome. Again, we have a lot of the ship designs from the High Republic novels and all of that art that's explored there. But it's like to actually see them in 3D, like to see them, in live action is so cool.
Vector. Amazing. Yeah, I love those cruisers too. Those Corvettes.
Jedi Vector. Those
right on, man. Cool.
Long beams.
We talked a lot. This was a really fun episode. I needed this.
Wait, my final thing I want to just throw you guys' way, which is I teased my whole thing, which is I think the Rian Johnson thing is my most anticipated out of all the things we discussed, just because of the creative involved, the time he's had, and the proof of concept in The Last Jedi. Do you guys have like a top one or top two sort of like most anticipated out of all we've talked about?
I do, though mine might be a little bit boring. It's still the New Jedi Order. It's still for me that because I love the character. I just want to see her be at the center of something and something growing in the future. I mean, I'm excited about all these, but that to me is still the one that I feel like I'm anticipating the most, and I don't know why. But yeah,
I love it. No, I love that answer because there's so much there. We talked about it earlier.
I mean, that's kind of the. I think that's a rabbit we're all chasing. I mean, like I just think pound for pound on our podcasts, we talk about that more than anything else because you can really. That's not the.
It's even more tangible than the Rian Johnson. Like I love the Rian Johnson idea because I love him as a creative. But with the New Jedi Order, you have an incredible, talented
we know
that we know who's going to deliver quality, and it's almost more tangible.
It is, and the way that it's created, if it's done really well, will create a trajectory that could last for decades.
Yeah, I think that's part of it too. Is like that's exactly what it is. Yeah, yeah, totally.
So there's a lot weighing on it, but there's a lot of opportunity there. And so to a lesser extent, Dawn of the Jedi, and where also it's like you're still talking about 20,000 years. I mean, that could also be a font of great content in the future as well, depending on how it's created. And I mean, it's going to be like the Silmarillion, which is like, I've just been on a bender of all these like origin story, like, stories from legendary IPs, like novel IPs and fantasy IPs and stuff. It's just like cozy time for me, and like that's what this is. So I'm gonna just say that Dawn of the Jedi, man, Mangold and Willimon, that's a great combo.
Yeah,
such a good combo.
Just like tell like a wild, fun, vast, slow, like beautiful story.
Yeah,
and I am excited for that one.
I am waiting to see the Bob Dylan biopic by Mangold to make my final sort of judgment about any upcoming project for him. I mean, he's made, Logan is probably the best superhero movie ever. Like on my Letterboxd, I think it's like 2 or 1 for my superhero list, which is like, that's astounding. Like the Mangold made the best superhero movie and then is just known for so many other incredible films. It's like, and then, with the Bob Dylan biopic, I'm just waiting to kind of watch that and see that and understand more of what's going on with him as a creative. But I think that's a really good choice because Bo will. And like, part of me thinks the whole Kinberg thing is like this announcement is like they have very close ties with him, and they're like, hey, can we just announce something with you to buy time for Mangold and his schedule and Bo Willimon, because they have something that's incredible that's basically ready to serve up, and we're just waiting for Mangold to have time to direct it essentially. I'm very excited
really
about that.
Weird timing. Like I wonder, it's like they gave us that list. Remember when like 9 shows came out? We talked about it earlier in this pod, right? I mean, that was in the middle of a pandy. It's almost like Lucasfilm's like, hey, let's give you guys something to be happy about and to look forward to and be excited about in the future. And I wonder, like, if they're like, hey, don't worry, there's going to be more Star Wars.
Yeah, I think that's a big part of it. Yeah.
It's like it's an auspicious time to announce yet another trilogy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Look,
I don't know,
there are good things happening. Yeah.
There are good things happening. How about that?
Yeah. Put a little good into the world when you can.
For sure.
Like,
That's right. And
escape to a galaxy far, far away.
Yeah.
and then always you're able to escape.
And it's always, heals my soul to sit down at the cantina in the galaxy far, far away with you two.
Hey, this is the thing I've been looking forward to.
And likewise, I gotta say,
this week, because I could kind of just shut my brain off from something else and talk about this.
Yeah, we always just dive into it, and then it's just all it is the galaxy far, far away. Yeah. It's a great time.
It's more refreshing than a Jedi meditation.
Yeah, I mean, it's wild. There's a reason we've done this almost 400 times.
Yeah. 365. I think this is technically if you're a core world news head.
Yeah.
So we're having the time of our lives. Hopefully we're giving you some distraction as well. Listeners at home, we're very grateful for you. Thanks so much for listening. I love drinking. Come join us at the Cantina next time for
Cantina Chronicles.